A very good afternoon, folks, and welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. How are you folks doing today? How are you guys doing out there? Do let us know how it is. Do let us know how you guys are doing. Do let us know how it is out there, guys. It's raining cats and dogs where we are. The 8% can't walk, folks. Lest we forget, the 8% can't walk. It will not do, Chisel Chipper. I think I missed you last night, Chisel Chipper. I think I missed you this morning too. You've been busy. You've been a busy little bee. Good to have you, Chisel Chipper, Maxine Still. Good to have Gweneth Anderson and SOR Dean. All you beautiful folks out there, wonderful people. Good to have you. Lest we forget the 8%. Lest we forget the 8%, good folks. Lest we forget the 8%. Guys, yesterday we sat down around this very time and we spoke with several union leaders. The one in which is Mr. Norris Witter, who is the president of the Guyana Workers Union, the General Workers Union, president of the General Workers Union, Mr. Norris Witter. And boy, oh boy, he had some choice words for the install regime where it concerns the 8% across the board pay increase. He had some words for them. We're going to give you that interview. We showed you a segment of it last evening. We want to give you more of it in this installment here. Folks, don't want to waste any time. Rowena Cummins and Orindon Cook. Margaret Daly Hope. Good to have you, Margaret Daly Hope, and Ray Adam Bingo and Annette Cummins. I see Gweneth Anderson is here. And Annette Cummins. Gweneth said, 8% can't walk. Can't walk. It can't walk. Good to have you, Chisel Chipper. Chisel says, walk tight. I understand. You got to bring in the bread, my brother. You got to bring in that bread. You got to bring in that bread. Walk tight. Orvin Don, we see you there. Guys, as I said, we spoke with the union leader, Mr. Norris Witter of the General Workers Union yesterday. And here's what he told us about this 8% and some allied issues concerning the union and this installed regime. Norris Witter, president of the General Workers Union.
As insulting contemptuous as the 8% would be. What is most egregious is the emasculation of the unions, particularly those within the public service, by the imposition of that 8%. Now, one needs to have some appreciation as to what this imposition means. It represents a flagrant violation of the Ali's government to the laws of Guyana, the Constitution of Guyana, the CARICOM Charter of Civil Society, the Treaty of Chaguaramas, agreements between the government and unions, inclusive of the Guyana Public Service Union, and many other international conventions, for instance, Convention 98, and many other time-honored agreements that the government of Guyana would have entered into post-independence. What must be taken very seriously is the fact that these violations have been occurring now for the past 20 years. We are supposed to be a rule-based nation. We are supposed to be a nation where, as we claim to be a democracy, where the rule of law should be respected. But here it is, we have a president that speaks of one Guyana, who flouts the laws, conventions, treaties, and charters with impunity. And as a consequence, by imposing that paltry 8%, has virtually, consciously taken a position to have the working poor persistently in a state of poverty. It is like saying to the descendants of slaves and the descendants of indentureship, "Here, you fools, take this paltry sum and go to my friend's shop and be merry for the Christmas." Now, one must obviously take into account, because these things must be put in context, that it was this very president, along with his vice president, not so long ago, is reported to have visited a number of communities and sections of the working people, for instance, the fisher folk and the sugar workers. And while Ali was doing it, the president on the one hand, you had the vice president on the other hand was in competition with him. So the two of them, you remember the series Bodabot and Lucastillo? There they were doling out monies to the privileged few. I want to say this to the president. There will never be the realization of the much touted mantra of one Guyana if you persist to treat the working people of Guyana unequally, if you consider part of the population to be privileged and another part to be not privileged. It is my considered view that the regime is taking advantage over what they perceive to be division within the ranks of the working people. But I wish to say this, that anyone who believes that the workers of this country have lost the will to struggle, they are making a mistake. In like manner in which the enslaved people fought and threw off the shackles of slavery, the indentured people free from themselves from indentureship, the descendants of the enslaved people and the descendants of the indentured will free themselves from this tyrannical regime that is headed by Ali and Jagdio. I would wish to appeal to the working people to desist from allowing the political directorate to continue sowing seeds of discord, division, and discontent among the working people. The working people, no other than a former Minister of Labor and a high-ranking official of the state, Dr. Nandagopal, a few weeks ago said that there's a particular cliche that he has been hearing constantly from persons across Guyana, irrespective of race, class, religion, political persuasion, that we live in a rich country with a lot of poor people. And that statement from Gopal is consistent with a World Bank report that came out not so long ago that suggests that approximately 40% of the Guyanese people are living in poverty. Why should, in a country that boasts of more than 11 billion barrels of proven oil wealth, that boasts of being the fastest growing economy in the world, that boasts of being one of the richest states, shortly, that we should have persons going to bed hungry. And let me say this, the persons who are going to bed hungry are not only Afro-Guyanese, they are Afro-Guyanese, they are Indo-Guyanese, they are the forest people across race. I would like to appeal to the working people that while, because you do not have any other option than to accept, and you will not be advised not to accept the pittance that will be given to you. But my advice will be is that you spend it wisely and prepare yourself for the struggle ahead, because there will be a struggle. There will be a struggle. Because even with that paltry increase, it will trigger further increases in the cost of living, right? Which obviously is going to shortly reach an unbearable level. Look, this 8% increase will take the minimum public service pay to under $81,000 per month. I think it's $80,829 per month. Dr. Vishnu Durga, a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, on a social media platform, said that he considered it inconceivable that a family can survive earning less than $100,000 per month. Right? This guy is not APNU, he's not PNC, he's not Afro-Guyanese. Right? The reputable accounting firm of Raman McCree did a partial cost of living survey about 6 months ago. That survey only took into account a basket of goods, essential goods, that of essential goods for a household of 5. And the result was that that basket of goods, the cost of that basket of goods will be within the vicinity of $117,000 per month. I'm talking about foodstuff, you know. I'm not talking about utilities and clothing and electricity and so on. Foodstuff, $170,000 a month. And 6 months ago, that figure of $117,000 per month was considered conservative. The cost of living since then has increased appreciably, right? So that $117,000 then bears no relationship to what the cost of the cost of that very basket of essentials will be today. Now, one would have observed in driving around the city a number of projects being undertaken by the state. Sidewalks, roads, bridges, name it. Good. Yeah? I say good. But the question is, can the working poor eat those stuff? Can they eat the sidewalk? Can they eat the roads? One would have thought that any government that worth its salt, if it has any compassion, if it has any care, if it has any concern, if it has any, I wanted to say love. But I think where love is concerned, in the eyes of the regime, it's a scarce commodity. Very scarce commodity. But for the sake of argument, if they had love, the same emphasis that is being placed on the building of roads and parapets and so on, wouldn't that same emphasis be placed on uplifting the Guyanese working poor masses from the state of abject poverty? Those who have eyes to see, let them see. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. I say to you, the workers of this country, that there can be no progress, there can be no improvement in the quality of your life unless you are prepared to struggle, right? And that preparation must start now. The ideal process is the process that is established, is enshrined in law, enshrined in the convention, treaties, charters, and is established through a process of negotiations, collective bargaining, right? Through which unions would have concluded what we call a recognition agreements and collective agreements. And embodied within those agreements are articles, understandings with states that parties will meet periodically to review and to upgrade whatever exists in the extant agreement. Now, this process of collective bargaining, which will involve the employer and the state, it must be known that the state is one of the largest employers in Guyana. And the state has a greater responsibility in respecting the laws, the conventions, the constitution, right? Because they are the custodians of the law, the custodians of these constitutions, and so on. Now, when the state is seen to be violating these laws, conventions, and charters with impunity, what example are they setting to the other sections of the society. Right? You know, they say when you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. I hope when the indiscretions of the state are met with similar force by the sufferers of this country, they will not cry foul. Right? They will not cry foul. Right? Because they are the ones who are inflicting, at this point in time, injury on the people. And obviously, there is a limit to which anyone will tolerate or bear the pain, right? That is is a natural response from that injury. Now, you know, I would like to say to the nation at large that these indiscretions, these impositions, these violations, these breaches are not only being observed by sections of the labor movement, they are being observed by this entire nation. No one can argue today, right? In the midst of social media and a plethora of media, whether printed, electronic, broadcasting, and so on, that they are not aware of these excesses by the state. Therefore, what I'm saying is that all decent people, the private sector, the churches, human rights organizations, right, the temples, the mosque, civic groups, all have a responsibility. The CARICOM Secretariat, the embassies, opposition political parties, all the trade union organizations have a responsibility not only to say to this regime that what they are doing is wrong, but to take steps to ensure that these wrongs being perpetrated by the regime comes to an end. Comes to an end. Because I dare say, I think no lesser than the legendary Bob Marley said, while it may appear to be peace and quiet, there always can be the likelihood of a sudden destruction. Right? And for Mr. Ali, who keeps on sprouting this whole mantra about the one Guyana, right? The one Guyana mantra will be a fleeting, Bob Marley again, a fleeting illusion, unless you are prepared to treat all the peoples of this country equally. And let me conclude by again referring to Bob Marley, when he said that unless the basic rights of all the peoples of Guyana are preserved, are protected, and promoted, peace will be but a fleeting illusion. And your mantra of a one Guyana will be a mirage. The General Workers Union, 34 weeks ago, commenced a picketing exercise in front of the Parliament building. It's like we foresaw some of these things coming to fruition. We conducted 2 consecutive weeks of protests in front of the Parliament. That was more or less symbolic because at Parliament building, which is where all the laws are passed and important decisions are made, it also has the statue of Yvonne Nathaniel Critchlow, who is renowned as the father of traditionalism not only in Guyana, but the English-speaking Commonwealth. Thereafter, we shifted the protest to the Ministry of Labor, because the issues that we were highlighting and the demands that were being made were issues that falls within the portfolio largely of the Ministry of Labor. We were demanding, for instance, the restoration of the collective bargaining. We were demanding at that time the implementation of a new minimum wage, which was agreed to since 2019. That has since been implemented from the 4th of July. It was moved from $40,200 to $60,147. But we argued then that when the decision was taken to increase the minimum wage from $40,200 to $60,175, that was done in a pre-pandemic, pre-Ukraine war era. And therefore, the figure of $60,147 bore no relationship to the cost of living as it was then, right? We were also demanding that an urgent review be made of the old age pension and also the National Insurance Scheme old age pension. Now, it is said that you can judge a nation by how it treats the young, its women, and the elderly, right? Many of the old age pensioners and the NIS old age pensioners are persons who would have worked and contributed immensely to this country to bring it where it was. And by whose contribution persons like Ali and Jagdi and all of us would have had a better life, would have had access to free education, and a whole host of other things. I mean, even though the health service and the many other social services are not to the standard that we would wish it to be. What has been an area of much concern to us recently is the number of persons who have been dying at the Georgetown Public Hospital, whether through maternity or other cases, right? Very worrying. It's suggesting that there's a deterioration. And there is where, rather than spending all these monies in sidewalks and so on, upgrade your hospital, man. Upgrade your schools. But coming back to your question, Now, last Friday, we have decided to shift focus of our picketing. So we mounted our exercise in front of the office of the president, that is in Vicente Road. And we have a big banner which reads boldly, "We are demanding the restoration of the collective bargaining process. And we are also demanding, like Gopal, Dr. Gopal, a living wage." And when Dr. Gopal spoke about a living wage, he was not talking about $80,829, He was talking, if you look at the figures he presented, right? Because the areas that he focused on was on the utilities. And if he was saying that the cost of utilities, water, electricity, telephone, will be within the vicinity of $36,000, right? Then you add the basket of goods, not of 5, but of 2 to that. And obviously, it will take you beyond $100,000, right? More within the vicinity of what Dr. Vishnu Prasad Duga proposed and what came out of the survey that was done by the accounting firm Ram and McCree, right? So we are also demanding a living wage. And to demand a living wage at this point in time is not unreasonable based on what I said earlier. Guyana proven reserve over 11 billion barrels of oil, right? Earning in excess of 1 billion US, right? In they call it in oil sales over 1 billion US. Where is all that money gone? If they are saying that they cannot afford to pay in excess of 8%, they must say to this nation, where has the oil money gone?
Pamela Gail Alicock. Out front parts, Cecile Ogle, where the money gone? Then all they have is a paltry 8%. All they got is a paltry 8%. Folks, when conversation getting sweet, we are out of time for a podcast today. We were waiting for the press conference to finish. A lot of information there as well, and we thank you guys for tuning into the press conference out of the People's National Congress Reform. But we're out of time. We're out of time. And that was Norris Witter, the president of the General Workers Union. Norris Witter. Lots of steam there. Lots of information there as well. Where the money gone, folks? Where the money gone? Over $1 billion US in oil revenues thus far. And all you guys are paltry 8%. My Lord. The countries of the Caribbean must bow their heads in awful sorrow, as our national poet says. In awful sorrow. He said, hey, them got all the island is 8% they give workers. My God. My God. Fitzgulliver, good to have you, folks. We did promise you credible, valid information. There you have it, folks. There you have it. Credible and valid information. We're going to join you back right here this evening at 8 for final broadcast for the day. Good, folks. And in between, good to have you here. Each and every one of you. I see out front parts, Marlene DeYoung, and all the other folks. Irwin Don Cook. I tying myself up, Irwin Don Cook. Good to see you, folks. We're going to be here back with you guys this evening at 8. Back in the ring, folks. Partner with us. Anniversary month. We can't do these programs without your love, your support, and your generosity. We just can't. Great to have you folks here with us. Great to have you folks here with us. We can't do it without your love and your generosity. We can't. We just can't, folks. We just can't. That's what we're telling you. We can't. We can't. But good to have each and every one of you here with us, folks. There's some power.
Want to keep getting the best in the ring?
Let's play!
Yes, you can help us to keep going by partnering with us through your contributions. And it's easy. Send us a daily, weekly, or monthly donation, whichever is most convenient to you. Cash App at $InTheRing592, Zelle and PayPal InTheRing592@gmail.com, or WhatsApp us on 627-6963 for how to contribute via MoneyGram and Western Union and for MMG payments.
Yep. That's it for us, folks. Stay safe until we see you guys back here this evening. Stay safe, folks. Share the live. Smash that emoji button for us, that others get valid, credible information as well. Thanks for joining us.